And good evening and welcome to Impact 2024. Impact 2024 is a ministry of Imani Christian Ministries, and we are located at 501 West 9 Mile Road in Highland Springs, Virginia. And glad that you've come to share with us. On Impact 2024, we discuss the issues and topics of the day. But we discussed them from a Christian perspective. And glad to have you this evening. Our host, Nathaniel Watkins, is not with us at this moment. And so I will be substituting for you this evening. Now, one of the things as we enter into our discussion, that if you have any questions or comments that you would like to make, you can type them in the question or the comment section, and we will respond. Amen. And we will talk about any questions that you may have or any comments that you have. We will discuss them. Okay. And so we're glad that you come to share with us. Let me say this: we sometimes have some issues in relationship to the as far as what you see on the air. But as long as you can hear us, we're still there. We're still there. I guess you know that. For some reason, for the last few weeks, we haven't been able to discover what the problem is, but our picture will freeze. It'll eventually come back, but we just ask that you would just be patient and still, if you have something that you want to say, go ahead and type it into the question or comment section. All right. I want you to also know that as Amani, we have services on Sunday, 10 o'clock, at our 501 West 9 Mile Road location, or you can see us on Facebook and YouTube. Also, on, as you already know, on Tuesdays, we have at 8 o'clock, we have Impact 2024. But also on Tuesdays from 7 to 7:45, we have a time of prayer. And wherever you are, we are agreeing that at 7 to 7:45, we will be praying. That doesn't mean you have to pray the whole time. But during that time, we have agreed as Imani and with our partners that we will be praying together. Now, if you do have a prayer concern, you can give us a call or text, I should say. You can text us or leave a message at 804-486-9200. That's 804-486-9200. And we will be glad to share with you in praying for you and with you. All right. As was stated earlier, we talk about the issues of the day, and we talk about the just what's going on in our world today, and there's a lot that goes on in our world today. There is a lot going on. I know one of the things that some of you probably have been paying close attention to. They just the young man who killed the executive. They just caught that young man in Pennsylvania, and so they're going to be dealing with him in relationship to why he did what he did. It was interesting how they do things like that. Now, this young man committed the supposedly, allegedly committed the crime, but yet they are spending a lot of time before we even go on to trial to determine guilt or innocence. But they spend a lot of time talking about the young man, his family, and all of that. And I have some issues with that because a lot of times when we come at people, we come at them forgetting that they do have families, they do have friends, they do have other things that they are involved with, and the focus should be on them and not on their family. but I've noticed that they've talked about the guy's family, where he's from, all this kind of stuff. They have nothing to do with this. All right. And we need to stop that because people have a tendency to kind of come at folk um, and come at everything around them. And that's not really a good thing to do. But we need to realize that some folk make mistakes or some folk do things. That doesn't mean, that should be on all of us. But that's how we do it in society. Matter of fact, the Bible even picks it up. When Jesus was doing some things that the folk didn't like, they went and got his family and told him to come get him. Family didn't. That's Jesus doing that. And the same thing with this young man. He's done whatever he's done, and to sit there and focus in on his family and what they do and his all of that, I don't think that's a good thing, and we need to stop that. Okay. Good news that our host is with us this evening, and he's going to come in and he's going to take over sharing with us. And so give me a second so he can get himself together, and then we're going to switch out, and you'll be able to continue the conversation. As he says, the continuing conversation about what's going on in our world today. All right?
All right. Welcome. I apologize for my not being here right at the beginning. And as always, I know it's already stated, but type your questions and comments in the comment section as we go through our dialogue and our conversation. And so similar to what was stated before, we're going to talk about the issue, or not the issue, the concept of kind of following some of the teachings of the Bible versus what we do, or the way we want to teach people. And so recently, in my personal space, there was an issue coming up of whether or not people discussing about turning the other cheek, or an eye for an eye, or how you should do and how you should teach yourself, how you should carry yourself, and how you should carry your kids or teach your kids. And so, many people in this current state in society, we say, all right, look, I know turning the other cheek is what the Bible says. Not trying to seek revenge is what it says. But we have this idea and this notion of we got to get our get back, our payback. You don't let nobody punk you. You don't let anybody take advantage of you. If somebody hits you, you better get them back. And so much so that some people teach their kids that, and would even, if a kid got hit and they didn't try to fight back, sometimes they would get in trouble with their parents. And we people have dealt with this over the years. They built up this kind of culture, especially when you're talking about in certain communities, urban communities, Black community, maybe Black and brown communities, or any, not even Black and brown communities, just in a lot of communities where toughness and macho-ness, whether it be male or female, type of macho-ness or aggression is kind of looked at as good, as power. We sometimes come on this notion like nobody's going to take advantage of me. Nobody's going to, hurt me. I'm going to always make sure I get my revenge, get my payback. And if somebody physically does something to me, I'm going to physically do something back to them. If somebody tries to hurt me in one way, I'm going to try to hurt them in another way. And that's the way we a lot of us live. And we got rationales for it. We sit back and we say things like, right now, we say, well, there's bullying out here. So don't let yourself get bullied. Don't let anybody try to do anything to you. You got to show them that you're tough. You got to fight back. You got to do this and do that. And again, you got to get revenge. And revenge is funny because revenge for a lot of us is not even the get back. It's the get back and then make it even worse. So if you hit me, you punch me in the face, I got to punch you in the face, then punch you again in the stomach, and punch you again and make sure that you knocked out all on the ground. That's revenge. That's the get back. Is to not only do what you did to me, but then do it even worse. And so we got our rationale, because if you don't get back, then people will step all over you and walk all over you. If you don't show people that you got strength and power, then they're going to take advantage of you. And so that's the teaching. And we know that it's important to teach that, because especially right now, when I say we know that, we think that it's important to teach that, because especially right now, in a case of where we have so much bullying with young kids. We have rising cases of suicide, which we've talked about here. And we have situations where we're sitting back and we're saying, oh man, you got to teach kids to be a little bit tougher, to have a little bit tougher skin. You got to teach kids how to handle bullies, because now you have cyber bullies and you have physical bullies in school, and you have, bullies all over the internet, whatever different types of way. And then you got bullies at your job that may try to bully you and this and that and this. So you got to be tough and you got to know how to fight back. But then, for many of us, we want to call ourselves Christians. And we look at, what does the Bible say? And we, some of us, we try to get real Old Testament. We go eye for an eye. But then we get New Testament and Christian from Christ, and we see that turn the other cheek. And those are the two main. That's how we look at it. It says a little bit more, but we look at it in those two big categories. We got the eye for an eye group, and you got the turn the other cheek group. You got an eye for an eye group, and you got the group that talks about forgiveness. You got the vengeance is mine, and then the vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So it depends on which we have that conflict. And so some people, we sit back and we're like, well, there's that practical matter of we need to protect our kids, we need to protect ourselves, and make sure that people aren't bullying us and taking advantage of us. And we're trying to decide, like, in a practical way, how does that fit with our faith? And so ideally, in this situation, we would have had, some young parents on here, or not young parents with kids that are younger, so maybe still school age, to kind of discuss that, because that's kind of a way of where we're going. How do you present that to your kids, and how was that presented to you? Because what that does is that kind of puts you on the path of not only how you're going to deal with that particular situation, but basically how you're going to deal with your faith overall. And I'm not going to sit here and fake like it's some easy answer, like one way or the other. I understand when people are saying, you got to teach kids not to be run over. If somebody hits you, you want to hit back. And I can understand wanting to teach that. I can understand the desire for that. But if we're going to be Christians, I think that there's a significant problem with it. And then there's a practical matter of it as well. When we're looking at Christianity, I think when you look at it, what the decision that you got to make, or how you're going to try to live your life, and how you're going to try to teach others, what's the benefit? Christ has been very clear. All right, here's the benefit. You want to be a Christian, you follow the rules of Christ. You get the ultimate blessing, which is for everlasting life. And then you get, along the way, you get the blessing and the comfort of healing. And then I ask and I wonder to people, all right, what's the benefit of being tough and your get back? They say, well, it shows people that I'm not soft. It shows people that you can't mess with me. And it shows people this, and it shows people that. And I wonder, like, how many people along the line, or how many times you sit back and you be like, man, I sure am glad that I showed those people I was tough. How many times does that scenario come up? I'm pretty sure it does sometimes. So if you had somebody who was a bully, you find the biggest, you get the prison scenario story where they say you find the biggest, baddest person, you go up to them and you knock them out, and then everybody will know not to mess with you. In reality, does that work? I don't know how many people have sat back and said, I'm glad that somebody hit me and then I hit them back, and then everything worked out all right. Everything went in my favor. I would dare say there's a lot more people who are in jail, who are at the graveyards, who decided that they were going to get their get back, and it blew up and turned into something that nobody wanted. And so, functionally, we sit back and we say, well, that Christian teaching, or what we're supposed to be doing in church, it's not really practical for our life. But then when you sit back and kind of look at it, is it not practical for your life? Like, is it some mystical, magical stuff? Or actually, when you sit back and think about it, does it actually work? Because I personally, I can't sit back and say too many scenarios where I'm like, man, I sure am glad that I tried to get back at this person. Whether it be physical revenge or some other kind of vengeance. Like if somebody did me wrong and I was like, and I took that back home, I wasted my time at the house thinking about them, having them on my mind where I could have been doing plenty of other stuff. Had to come up and devise with a scheme and a plan of how I'm going to get them back and what's going to make them hurt. Wow. So again, I'm sitting back wasting more time thinking about them, coming up with advice, coming up with plans and everything, when I could have been hanging out, could have been relaxing, could have been sleep, could have been eating. So I put all of this time and effort into thinking about these people, so I can try to get back at them. Ultimately, for what? Just so I can feel good for a little bit. Because at the end of the day, so really, I wasted hours and hours. My blood pressure went up, which didn't need to do. Mental time, your brains, you got big brains, but your brains ain't so big. So I'm filling it up with this person. As they say, you got to let the person living rent free in your head. All for what? Like, did you really get what you wanted to get? Comment. As Christians, we cannot belong to two kingdoms. We either belong to the kingdom of the world or the kingdom of God. Choose you today who you will serve. Yeah. It's right there. It's the lukewarm scenario. You got to choose. You got to hot, cold. You can't be lukewarm. You'll get spit out. You got to choose which side. But that's the thing. I think that it's easy to say that sometimes, to say you need to pick a side. But when we break it down for the practicality of people, we got to explain. I think sometimes we got to explain or maybe examine. Why do you follow what it said? You follow what it said because it's just said, or do you sit back and sometimes look at it and realize and analyze, is this good advice? Because I think this one is a practical one. This one is this decision of vengeance and this decision of payback and this decision of things like that. I think it's a practical one. If you sit back and you really look at it, Jesus is giving you just good advice. Like, don't waste your time with things that don't matter. And vengeance and revenge don't matter. An eye for an eye doesn't matter. You don't get the benefit of what you're doing. It's often said, if somebody takes your eye and then you take their eye, now you just got two people with one eye. How does that make anybody feel any better? Like, what are we doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? And so, yeah, I think it's really a great point here. You can't belong to two kingdoms. You got to pick which one. But sometimes do we sit back and ask ourselves, all right, well, what's the reason that you're going to follow? What's the reason that we're going to follow the guidance given by Jesus Christ? Is it just because we want to be Christians and we want to follow Jesus Christ? That's a great reason. But some of it is, is this the right advice? Is this going to benefit my life? And I would say to you and your, whether it be in us, you, me, whether it be teaching our children, I think that revenge and the eye for an eye and how we approach things is practical for our lives. I think it makes sense for our lives. It's not anything special. This is the smartest thing. We are wasting time trying to seek revenge. We're wasting time trying to teach our kids and and walk around ourselves trying to be tough. Being tough means nothing. If you hurt me, it's better to let you know you hurt me. And you're not nice or you're not good because you're out here hurting people, than to try to fake like you didn't hurt me. Like, I'm not going to let anybody know that they hurt me. Why not? They hurt you. Being hurt doesn't make you weak. And I think that's where we're messed up at. Getting revenge doesn't make you, in a lot of cases, people will say at the end of the day, getting revenge doesn't make them feel better. Now, some other people will say it does. So I want to make, that's why I paused there. And because what we're teaching now with our kids and we're looking at it for ourselves and our Christianity, it goes into bigger issues. When we're looking at it across the world, when we're looking at Israel, when we're looking at the Palestinians, when we're looking at Ukraine, and we're looking at the Russians, when we look at Mexico and how we categorize and treat people at the border. When we look at how our lives are guided, I think it comes down to the fact that we made a decision that we were going to read the Bible, that we were going to go to church, that we were going to hear things like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and decide that that's going to be right. And instead of looking at, love thy neighbor, turn the other cheek. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord, not this. That's not our thing to do. And I think we live in, like it was just stated, two different worlds. But we've chosen this other world, and we've made these reasons and excuses that now in the real world, this is how it works because this is what benefits your life. But yet it doesn't really benefit your life. I have rarely heard somebody being able to explain why getting revenge makes it better. Because rarely do people feel good or feel better. You feel good for a moment, and then at the end of the day, nothing's changed. Or why do you need to fight back? Why do you need to fight somebody back and get revenge? And oftentimes revenge, again, is not equal. It is you want to do way worse. Let's take it and let's be real. One of the major problems that we've had with Israel, and I'm not talking about this particular situation here. This particular situation with the Palestinians, where we're talking about what happened with Hamas and everything like that a year ago. But was one of the things that's happened with Israel is that every time Israel was hurt by Hamas or some Palestinians, and they killed one person or they killed 10 people, Israel would respond with a heavy hand, and it would be like tenfold. So 10 people died over here, then I'm going to come back and I'm going to kill 100 of yours. If 1,000 people died, then I got to kill 10,000 people of yours. And that was my get back. That was my revenge. That's not an eye for an eye. That's not even revenge. That's I killed you and now I'm doing even worse. I'm hurting you. That's beyond revenge. And I think, and that's some of the problems that people have had with that country and the way that they do things. But many of us do that same type of activity. And I think look even more. That's what Christ is talking about. Because vengeance is a slippery slope that pulls you down into evil. Because even if it was an eye for an eye, you done made it so that you got your eye and now you want a leg and an arm and everything like that. It slips you down. Many of this stuff slips us down into a path of destruction. And so I think that's what's happened with a lot of us as parents, where we sit back and we told our kids to be tough and then not take any mess. And then the next thing you know, they out here getting into some altercations and getting into things. And now it goes from a fight to shooting to this to that. Or it goes from this incident, now I'm running with a whole group of people because I'm scared and this and that, and other folk get involved. Things snowball out. And that you want to talk about the practicality, that's the practicality of it. You don't need to seek revenge because you can't handle it. It's going to turn into something that it doesn't need to turn into. And so lean on the Lord. He can do the revenge. He can take those burdens off of you. And I think that's where we kind of get it messed up, because we're looking for this practicality, but the practicality is right there. One of ways that people are brought down or taken out is to manipulate them to get out of control. Many times people are trying to make you their Pinocchio. Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's the great part. Here's the great part. That is how you do it. You control people. So I don't know how many people watch the NFL and watch football, but football is a nice little sport here. And one of the things that the football players have learned is that they have referees who can call flags. And the referee doesn't see everything. But one of the common things is they always see the last one. And so on the football field, you'll have people, they're smart. They're going to push you after the whistle. After the play is over, I'm going to push a guy, or I'm going to hit a guy, or do something bad to a guy. The ref is never going to see it. But the ref almost always sees the guy when he retaliates, the retaliation, the get back. They're playing you, like it says here with the Pinocchio. I'm going to push you a little bit, because what you're going to do is you're going to act a fool and you're going to try to get back. And when you try to get back, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get caught. Well, I talked about Israel, and this is not an Israel bashing session right here, but at the end of the day, that's what Hamas did. They said, I want to show the world how you act. We're going to take out 1,000, 1,300 people. We dead wrong. We know we dead wrong. But we're going to take out 1,300 people. Because we know, just like those NFL players, you're going to try to get back. And you're going to show the whole entire world how bad you can be, how evil you can be, how foolish you can be by coming out here and seeking your revenge and going way further than what we did. And as a result, almost 40,000 people were killed for 1,300. And so that's where we get kind of lost in the sauce. We get manipulated, the Pinocchio effect, as I was saying. We getting played. I think this whole, I'm going to get revenge. I'm going to be tough. I don't need to let anybody look like they're taking advantage of me. I got to get back. I'm teaching my kids, like, if somebody hits you, you better hit them back. We playing ourselves. I think we're getting played. We need to follow what Christ says. And as hard as it may be, that's not the way you were taught. That's not the way I was growing up. That's not how we do in my neighborhood. All the excuses that we have. Look, follow Christ. We don't need to follow the neighborhood. We don't need to follow how you were brought up. We don't need to follow any of that stuff. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't yield any results. I don't. If I'm wrong, somebody tell me. You can sit back and be like, I sure am glad. If it wasn't for the fact that I was tough and I, sought revenge and I always got people back. Maybe sometimes in some scenarios in the street, you're sitting back saying, yeah, I was showing everybody I was tough. And when they mess with me, then I mess with them and then nobody else mess with me. That ain't true. And for the rest of the time, you was running out there. You was always looking over your shoulder. You was always worried that somebody was going to get you back on the get back. All right. I honestly think that, sometimes we need to think about why we follow Christ and why we serve the Lord and why we need to listen to the counsel of the Bible. There's some practicality there. When we say those things, that this is how it is in the real world, honestly, I think you need to look at what it says in the Word, because that's how it is in the real world. That's it. All right. Well, thank you for all the comments. Look, I don't know if you enjoyed it, but I thought that was, good conversation. As I will remind everybody, on Thursdays, 7:00, right here, same place, Facebook and YouTube. Thursday Thirst, our weekly Bible study. Please join us. Great information. We need to go into the Word. On Sundays, we have worship service, 10:00 here, Eastern Standard Time. Facebook, YouTube, and in person at the address on the screen. And 7:00 on Tuesdays today, we have a time of prayer from 7 to 7:45. The ministry prays anytime between that time, not the whole time if you want, the whole time if you want, but sometime between 7 and 7:45. Please pray with us. And then, as always, at 8 we have Impact 2024. And then, as a reminder for those who are in the Richmond area, this weekend on the 14th. The Step Beyond is having a fundraising gala. I think that's what we'll call it, at the historic Wigwam Center here in the Richmond area. If you can't join us, you can find out more information at the website or at stepbeyond.org, I want to say. Not sure, but if you can go to our website, then it'll get you there. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Have a good one. And